Hello, and welcome to the Smile Revolution Show. I am Princess Wow, also known as Mindy Fradkin. Some people call me Mindy on the show, just so you know, I am Mindy too. Okay, so I am, just to let you know, in case you've never seen my show before, I am a former radio show host for the Smile Revolution, founder of the Smile Revolution, comedian, performer, hat designer, singer, songwriter. I'm a woman of many hats. What can I tell you? Okay, so I'm really excited about my show tonight. Pioneers of the, hi Nancy, pioneers of the 1980s East Village gallery scene. And I'm going to start though with a few smile quotes and some inspiring quotes really quick, because this is like it's a really extensive interview tonight. Okay, so let's see. Janet Lane said, of all the things you wear, your expression is the most important. And Chris Hart said, all the statistics in the world can't measure the warmth of a smile. And let's see, Archbishop Desmond Tutu wrote, as a foreword to a wonderful book called Fly, Eagle, Fly, An African Tale by Christopher Gregowski. How frequently we have thought that we were chickens destined to spend our lives limited to an earthly existence with limited horizons. We are made for the sublime, the transcendent. We are not bound to this earth and a humdrum existence, but are made for something truly glorious. We are not mere chickens, but eagles destined to soar to sublime heights. We are made for freedom and laughter and goodness and love and eternity, despite all appearances to the contrary. We should be straining to become what we have it in us to become, to gaze at the rising sun and lift off and soar. I've always liked that quote. And there's Laura. Hi, Laura. Thanks. Okay, and Nancy. Yeah. Okay. So, and there's a book that I just picked up. Well, I've had it, Show Your Work by Austin Kleon. And Honoré de Balzac, writer, said, for artists, the great problem to solve is how to get oneself noticed. And these gallerists definitely got artists noticed. Oh, good. You like that quote too? Okay, good. Okay. So I found that tonight. Yeah. It just seemed right for this interview. And then Derek Sivers said, whatever excites you, go do it. Whatever drains you, stop doing it. Okay. So I want to say really quick before I do my short bios, and my bios, I'm just doing my short version of everyone's bios. You can find out more detail about them on my Facebook page, Princess Wow Network, the full bios on them. Okay. So Make Me Famous, which is a documentary film about this scene, the art scene in the 80s in the East Village, is going to be playing at Upstate Films for my friends in Hudson Valley on July 6th at 7 o'clock on a Saturday with the Q&A of the director and producer in Saugerties. And it's based on Ed Brzezinski, the artist who wanted to become famous. He wasn't like one of the art stars at that time, but he wanted to be, and that's what the focus is on. And Jim C., who's on my panel here, his archival footage is in the film. And I saw it recently, and it's really riveting. So if you can see it, if it comes to your town, if you're not in the Hudson Valley, it's in Brooklyn, I think, on the 30th of June, and it's been traveling around the world for the last year. So anyway, okay. So, so we've got here Doug Milford, co-founder of Paizo Electric Gallery. He is a photographer, writer, performer, and former entrepreneur with 42 years of leadership experience in the fine art industry. Lisa McDonald is also co-founder of Paizo Electric Gallery, which opened March 1983 and closed in the summer of 87. She opened a gallery under her own name in the fall of 87 in Soho. And the summer exhibition in 1990 was her last. And then Nina Seigenfeld Velasquez is a visual artist curator who resides in the Northwest Bronx. She attended the School of Visual Arts in the early 80s. While there, she and fellow art student Mario Fernandez co-founded the New Math Gallery in 83. And then Jim C., he burst upon the East Village scene in 83. His radical sense of experimentation, collapsing video, sound, painting, and photography together, blurring the boundaries between artistic disciplines, defined his oeuvre. I don't know how to say that. Anyway, and he shared the Magic Gallery with Ed Brzezinski for a year, and he was the founder of the Nada Gallery. Okay, so I'm going to bring, I think I did everything I was supposed to. Okay, so I'm going to bring them on now. Okay. Hi, Doug and Lisa.
Hey, Mindy.
Hi, Mindy.
It's good to see you both.
Great seeing you.
Thank you. Anyway, okay, so how did this all start, your gallery in the East Village? Well, it wasn't called the East Village, right? It was the Lower East Side. Is that what it was called?
Right.
Was it Lower East Side, right? Okay.
Correct.
Doug, so how did this all start?
So I knew Lisa back from high school. We were high school sweethearts, and then we both came to college at Columbia, Lisa at Barnard. And then we broke up, lost touch, but then got to be friends again kind of after college. And I had been going down to the Lower East Side to be seeing music for years. I had friends down there, and we lived up at Columbia, 116th Street area, and Lisa on Riverside. And but I had been going back and forth. I just wanted to get a place down in where my friends were. And I was looking around for apartments, and we found this building that was being badly renovated, but it had a corner store that was big, and it had a basement as well. And I said, if you renovate the basement as good as the apartments above, which wasn't very good, I'd rent it. And so and it was like $500, 1,700 square feet, both floors. And so we had this space, and so talked to Lisa, and we thought of doing a project in this space. And so, we both had jobs, but we just kind of did this thing on the side where we had some performances and parties and poetry readings. And this is 1982. And I was living in the basement. And then we did an art exhibition, and suddenly everybody came out of the woodwork, because the whole area was teeming with artists they couldn't afford. It was like a little bit later than they were a little bit younger than could get into Soho, and but it was packed full of artists because it was cheap rent there, and people could work and afford. People could work on their art and afford, the rent and not have to do too much of a full-time job, that sort of thing. Anyway, so Lisa and I started this thing.
Okay, so Lisa, now how did you get into? Well, Doug asked you to join with the gallery, but what did you think of it being? What did you think it was going to be a big deal one day, or you're just?
No, we didn't think it was going to be a big deal. Doug and I actually were both working in Midtown Manhattan at the time. At jobs. He was at J.C. Penney. I was at that point at, I don't know if I was at Cable Health Network, or I can't remember which one I was at. But anyway, so we would see each other at lunch or something sometimes, because we were right there on 6th Avenue. And anyway, so yeah, I was like, okay, we're in. And this was a period of time where there were just generally visionary, stupid 20-year-olds doing things, and it was an easy place to do it. And we're both creative to some degree. And we had I had a gallery background. Both of us worked for MoMA during the Picasso exhibit
as a security guard,
which was fun. I was front desk. Okay. And he was security guard. And so we were always, and we had had a bit of a history in Manhattan too, because his older siblings were in Manhattan at certain times. So when he was younger, he was in Manhattan. So, and so when coming to Columbia, it was sort of comfortable to come here. My sister lived here previously too. And so we decided to do this. And it was kind of like, well, it was like a Judy Garland thing, Andy Rooney is like, let's build a gallery, and that's
The
what
kids,
it was.
let's put on a show.
Yeah.
That
And
was,
it was really
Mickey Rooney though, but
what?
Mickey Rooney.
No,
that's okay.
No,
You said Andy
okay.
Rooney.
No. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say
And Mickey Rooney? Okay.
So,
Okay. Anyway, yeah, there were. We started this thing out, and we realized there were a handful of other people doing it's kind of a similar thing in the area. There were people that opened art galleries without knowing any better, basically accidentally almost. They just had these spaces. They put on. It's like Gracie's, like, oh, let's do something in my bathroom.
It was like
and people came around, and so, yeah. I mean, I remember I have my journal, and it says, "Wow, maybe we can actually." Keep this going. If we just sold $500 worth of art, this thing could pay for itself because the rent was $500. Right. And then people started coming down, collectors started coming, buying things. We had no expectations of that at all. We just thought we were doing a fun project. This was a project. We weren't opening a business. And there were other people with the same idea. Huh?
How long before you started really making money, like good money? How long did that take?
Never made good money.
Good money?
Started selling more. You said collectors started coming.
Okay, so we started going so that we quit our jobs.
Right.
And, and that was my sole source, our sole source of income. So, we put our money into the gallery, what we had and what we could do. So we just kind of lived down there, got in free to the clubs, free drinks, that sort of thing. So it wasn't that expensive to be down there. As I said, the rent was low. Lisa moved down a block away, and there was like this first group of galleries, not, with these projects. I mean, it was kind of their names really spoke to the idea, the names of the galleries, Fun Gallery, New Math Gallery, Gracie Mansion, and
Civilian Warfare.
Warfare.
You came up with Paizo. Well, when did you name Paizo Electric? And Doug, you came up with that. Where did that come from?
Yeah, I was working as a copywriter for the JCPenney catalog, as Lisa mentioned, and I was writing about these barbecue grills, and they had Paizo Electric starts, and it's like, what's that? And I looked it up in the dictionary, and it's like that clicking you have on the stove that eventually lights the gas flame. So it's exhibiting charges of electricity induced in a crystalline substance, hitting a crystal by the application of pressure. And so the idea was, so when we started out, we had no stable or anything like that. We had friends that were artists, but we would make studio visits and we'd like the work and we'd say, oh, this is great. You want to do a show next month? Or in 2 months or something like that. So it's like suddenly we like put this pressure on of a show, and they made the work. They knocked it out, as it were, or they brought in their late work and kind of created a new body that was for this event. And so that was Paizo Electric. And basically, if you put artists in a situation, they'll create this work. And that was the idea for it was kind of like the idea of it was a storefront, right? It was like Joe's Electric. It was like kind of like that concept, but also so that was that. Hey, we should bring in Jim and Nina.
I'm going to in a minute.
All talking about the same thing,
Yeah, we're going to. They're going to be in a minute.
Mindy's in charge.
I'm in charge. Okay.
Anyway, so that's how we go going. There was like 7 galleries that opened, spring of '83 or before. Including New Math and Us, and Fun Gallery, Nature More, Gracie Mansion, Civilian Warfare, 51X, and Art and New Math Gallery, and Paizo Electric, and so that's where things started happening, and we started actually getting some attention and realizing that there was something going on, and we quit our jobs and said, let's go with it.
So, but it seems like that it only lasted about 5 years. Is that true? Like then there was like it was like the golden. I'd say Gracie Mansion said something like it was like the golden age before AIDS.
Yeah.
It was very joyful.
Well,
That's what she was saying when I heard an interview with her. It was just very.
well, yeah. I mean, oh, sorry.
Go on, Lisa.
So no, I mean, yes, it's true. It was destined to end, just from what it was, because you had gentrification was creeping in right there at the beginning of the 80s. AIDS was happening.
Stock market.
It just didn't. Yeah, everything
collapsed.
Was, it could never happen again anywhere in Manhattan because everything's different now.
Right.
So it was destined to not fail, but to morph, and then some of us morphed.
To Soho.
Some got, some didn't.
Right.
And then there you go. I mean, there was a whole, trajectory. So, but anyway,
it's amazing. You ended up having. Okay, go on.
All right, go ahead. You were saying something.
No, I was saying it's like amazing. Like, but by like 86 or 87, there were like 175 galleries in these fields. That's like amazing.
The first group. After there was an article in Art America, and the collectors started coming down in limousines and like totally surprising us, and then there was attention paid on us, and then people started, and then in the next fall, that fall of '83, there was another 20 galleries that opened. But these are galleries, these are people with that saw what was happening, had experience, saw an opening, and
right.
And open galleries. I mean, that's kind of typical thing. You've got the first you were the
first wave
people, pioneers, right. And it's rarely that the first people are the ones that go on, and in this case it really kind of was. This in the second group we have PPOW that's still not only still going, but
no, they're amazing.
They're amazing.
Most important galleries in the world right now.
PPOW.
That's a gallery.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I don't know about that. I didn't read about that.
Penny Pilkington and Wendy Osloff.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
And
Gracie Mansion too.
Well, Gracie hasn't had a gallery for many, many years. I mean, she
hasn't. Oh, I thought she still does. Oh, no. Okay.
No. I mean, she's
involved.
She's involved in the art world. She's had jobs. She had jobs in the industry for many years, but she hasn't had a gallery for many years. But in any event. So, and then the momentum just, it started to become there's 175 galleries, but below 14th Street between, and east of 2nd Avenue in like 1987. And by that time, there was opportunities for bigger and spaces at less money in East Soho along Broadway. Right. And we took that opportunity to move there, and we opened separate galleries there on East Broadway, but not on East Broadway. Pardon me. It was in East Soho on Broadway.
Yeah. So I heard that all of a sudden, within months, it was like all of a sudden East Village wasn't cool anymore. It was like it was cool, and then all of a sudden it wasn't. Right. That's what I heard.
I still lived there. I mean, it's just that there wasn't a powerful gallery scene. The kind of the leaders, most of them had moved to Soho. Moved to Soho.
Right.
Anyway.
Well, there was a whole thing with East Village artists were considered. I mean, there was a whole thing about
there was a backlash, right?
It was kind of like they were. There was a certain what people pictured as East Village artists, which when we did what we did, they weren't those kind of East Village artists. So as far as how everything looked and everything. And so then, I mean, we were serious. We were actually like a serious painting gallery. We liked really beautiful painting. Mm-hmm. And we did other stuff too. But I mean, that was the thing that kind of it turned us on.
Well, that's early on what we became known for. We were both photographers, but I'm personally, at school, I was studying, we're both studying art history as well as English, and we just kind of, for me anyway, it's like, oh, look at all these painters and what they're doing. And but I think what you're saying, Lisa, is there was a long period where people talk pejoratively of East Village artists as not important work. Well, it's come around. Right now, you're finding that, some of the most important works of, historical works are, Martin Wong, David Wojnarowicz, Richard Hambleton, Kiki Smith. These are all artists that started out exhibiting in the East Village. And those and there was at some point around 86, 87, there was kind of a trend towards a cooler, more cerebral or kind of arch approach to
the trend changed
to making art that was in style for the collectors, and there was kind of a pivot there. So painters, more expressionists, were artists like David and Richard, David Wojnarowicz, Richard Hambleton, even Kiki and Martin Wong, others like I just mentioned. They didn't have much career, but now their works are going, for millions at auction.
Oh, really? Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, but you showed all of them, right?
No, it didn't.
Who did you show that's become well known? I thought you did.
We showed David in a show and Martin in a couple shows, but we didn't represent either of those. But PPOW at this point represents both of their estates. We did give Kiki her first gallery show on our Avenue A space in the basement. And Richard Hambleton, Paizo did 2 solo shows, and I, with my later gallery, did 2 solo shows.
Okay.
Anyway, so trends change.
The trends change. And
yeah, right.
You have to remember that. I mean, all of this kind of started with the whole East Village thing or Lower East Side thing. Started with Collab. They did the real estate show. Then they were given, there was a whole big thing with that, and so they were given ABC No Rio as a place. The city gave it to them as a space, and it was all political.
Wait, what's Collab?
Collab was
collaborations. Collab.
Yeah, Collab was a group of artists that knew each other.
And they did the real estate show,
late
which
70s.
was groundbreaking.
Oh.
And that's kind of how all this shit started.
Oh.
And then they got ABC No Rio, and it was given to them as a place. The city said, basically, shut up, and we'll give you this building.
Okay. Oh.
And so, and then it continued on to, it was political at the time because all Reagan stuff at the time. So they were all, the Jenny Holzers and all those people were involved with that at the beginning. So it got political, and then it kind of just morphed into this thing via location because it was all down there.
Okay.
I think that is just Collab really didn't have anything to do with David Wojnarowicz or Richard Hambleton. Collab has a group of artists. A lot of them lived in the Ludlow Street area where you did too as well later, Lisa.
Okay.
But that you put them in there, and you put a lot of people ended up in the East Village that were.
But it's all artists moving down there,
right? But it wasn't like things were happening simultaneously in this area, and because it was all art, right?
Right.
There were artists, and there was galleries, and the galleries had their programs. Some had a kind of a different style because they're chosen by their proprietors. But there was a lot of work. It's 175 galleries. There's going to be a lot of work that isn't really that good,
right?
Because all you needed to do to have a gallery was rent a space and invite people to show there. But and then there was work that was super strong and work that will be a part of our history, forever. So that's going to happen. Some of our artists, but we thought they were all good, and we think they all make good work. But we also did huge shows, and that was another thing. We did shows of 50 artists, called with the Wild West that Carlo McCormick curated, and organized, and we did 29 artists from the Lower East Side. Was the first, I think, Lower East Side or East Village type of show. We did that, and it was our third show. But I think
again, we were still calling it Lower East Side back then, which is kind of interesting. So
yeah, well, yeah, for a minute.
I know.
Right now, I have friends who live down there, and they call it the Lower East Side. So it's still like controversial what to call it.
Yeah, well, I mean,
it's the Lower
East Side. Well, we were actually not in the East Village on Clinton Street because we were below Houston. The East Village is considered, north of Houston. Blah blah.
All right,
blah.
I want to show. Okay, I want to show a photo that was in the New York Times recently because Patty Astor passed on from the Fun Gallery. So I want to show this photo. When I have photos, I got to show, and then I want to bring them on, Nina and James or Jim C. Okay, hold on one sec. Okay, so this picture of all of you, I think Nina and Mary are there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nina's got the beret on.
Right. Okay, can you tell me?
Patty is the one with the skin.
In the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's me next to her.
You want to identify them?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay, so Doug, you want to do it, or I can do it?
Well, I could start.
Okay.
Going counterclockwise from the lower left there's me sitting there with my knee up, and see this picture was a recreation of a photograph that was taken. I forgot who took it, but of abstract expression artists from the period, and they were all posed like this. Well, Timothy Greenfield.
Wait, Timothy Greenfield, right? Didn't he take
this? Sanders.
Okay.
Timothy Greenfield Sanders.
Okay.
Took these pictures, but these are basically, we are posing in the same poses of the original photograph from, I forgot the name of the photographer, but they're, had the abstract expressionist artists mostly, and it was called the Irascibles. So these are the new Irascibles. They did, Timothy Greenfield Sanders did a series of portraits, also organized by Robert Pincus Witten and the writer. And they selected the artists. And so they did like 3 of galleries. Basically, this is the first wave, the first group of galleries. There's like 3 of artists, and there's one or two of collectors, and then there's one of critics. But this is the galleries 1. And so there's me lower left, and there's Elizabeth McDonald. Next to her is Bill Stelling, Patty Astor's partner, the Fun Gallery. Going uphill is Alan Barrows and of Civilian Warfare, and his partner Dean Savard. There's a cutout of him because he didn't make the shoot. I don't know, he didn't happen to be there. I forgot the reason, but
it's a Judy Glansman portrait.
But it's a Judy Glansman cutout. Judy is an artist that fabulous artist. Showed her recently at the Burcliffe Guild. I curated a show of hers up here in Woodstock, last couple of years. And then
Rich Colicchio.
Rich Colicchio from 51X. It's mostly a graffiti gallery. And then Gracie Mansion up top. Going down from Gracie, you've got Mario Fernandez, who was Nina Seigenfeld's partner. Next to him is Peter Nagy, who Nature Mort. Oh yeah, Mario was a New Math Gallery, and Peter's Nature Mort, who actually we talked about galleries continuing. He went over to India, Delhi, I think, in the early 90s, and has continued a gallery over there for all this time. I actually, when I was in India, I went and saw his gallery and went and visited artists. Below him is
Alan
Belcher, his partner, who's up in Toronto, I believe. And then there's Nina Seigenfeld Velasquez. And then above her is Sir Rodney Sir, who's Gracie's partner. And then I guess that's everybody up to Patty Astor.
Well, Patty's in the middle, yeah.
Who's in the middle. Okay. And Patty recently passed. She was a proprietress of the Fun Gallery and passed recently. She's only the second one of this group, that has passed. Dean had passed a while back.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna bring them on in a minute. I just want to show some other pictures. Okay. So then we've got, there's you and Lisa.
That's
love
a Philip
great
Pocock picture. Yeah.
That's a good shot. And is
This
that
is
your
photographed
gallery?
by-
Yeah,
What?
that's your gallery, right?
Yeah, on 6th Street. That was 437 East 6th Street.
That's the
And
second gallery.
That's second
moved up-
space.
Yeah.
And that Philip Pocock did the photo?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm fairly sure.
Okay.
We
all
moved
right.
up. We moved
Yeah.
up to 6th Street because when the second wave of galleries, the 20-something galleries opened, they all opened pretty much up around 10th Street. So suddenly, where it used to be that for 7 galleries, people would make the effort to go 10 blocks to our gallery. But when there was, we were out of the area, in a sense, 10 blocks away, down on Clinton Street. We recognized that. And so we got a space up on 6th Street. And I didn't have a basement there. So that period I was
Floating?
Out of a house.
Floating. No,
houseless.
let's call it floating.
Okay. All right. So what is it? Okay. Now these pictures are from what? To explain these pictures to
From
us?
Timothy
These are also-
Greenfield Sanders.
Yeah,
What?
this is
And this was
from a
from
book. A book called The Art World. They did
Okay.
an exhibition at Mary Boone Gallery years back, but there's
Okay.
pictures of 700 people that he had taken portraits of. These are from like 1984. Both of us smoking, as seemed to
Cigarettes. I know.
be everything.
And you know what's so great about this is
What?
alphabetically we're right next to each other.
Uh-huh.
Oh yeah, it was alphabetic.
You're
McDonald
right.
and
You're
Milford.
right.
So we
Yeah,
weren't put
okay.
together because we were partners. It was just we
No.
followed it
Yeah.
as an
I know.
alphabet.
That's cool. That's
I
really
was
neat.
so happy when I saw that.
I know, that's
Yeah,
really
that was
neat.
Aw.
That's great. Okay.
So Timothy
I
is the
think-
same. It's the same.
Okay.
Timothy Greenfield Sanders, the same art photographer who took the new Irascibles group portrait.
Okay. Okay. All right. So I'm going to bring Nina and Jim C on. Hello.
Hello, hello, hello. Hi.
It's good to see you all.
You too.
Yeah. So, okay. So, Nina, you had the new math gallery
I did indeed.
and you were 22,
Yes, I was.
right? So, you were still in art school?
When we opened, we were still both in art school.
Okay.
So we were at School of Visual Arts and we had a whole bunch of friends. And Mario called me at like 2:30 in the morning one night in February. Said, I just rented this space. It's $300 a month. What should we do? And I said, I've got $250 left on my student loan. Let's open a gallery. And we did.
Is that in 83? When was
83,
that?
we opened March of 83.
Okay. And so and then okay. And then yours became, I know that Doug and Lisa's gallery, Paizo Electric, became like a leading gallery, and yours did too, I heard.
Mhm.
So okay. So eventually, I mean, how long did it take for you to actually take off and do well with your gallery?
You know, it was funny because one of the things that happened was we were reviewed pretty quickly.
Okay.
And so once we were reviewed, people were coming in. We were right around the corner from Gracie. She was very generous to us and, brought us people. We brought her people. It was really very familial, I feel like. Like there was a competitive edge, but we were directly around the corner from civilian warfare. And then Gracie at the time was on 10th. So it was 10th Street on the corner of sort of between A and B, closer to B was Gracie. Then you had civilian warfare between A and B on 11th, and then you had new math on 12th between A and B. So again, it was very familial. And then, Paizo started on Clinton Street, but we both opened the same month in terms of gallery wise. And we opened with the idea that we were both visual artists and we had friends that were artists. And I always went, artist, waitress. And this was like, maybe we don't have to wait tables. We'll do this instead. I don't know what I was thinking. And we thought we were going to make lots of art and we were going to be able to do this too. And that proved to be very incorrect. But, again, we opened knowing very much what we wanted to show and who we wanted to represent. That happened very early on. So we looked at artists. and we were open to showing people. And of course, you'd have a group show and you'd show everybody from everywhere. But we definitely opened with a stable of artists.
So were you? So was Mario a business person or you? I mean, you know, a lot of artists are
None
not
of us.
business
Are you
people. You know what I'm saying?
$250.
Yeah, yeah. But I'm saying
No,
it's like,
neither of us were at all. I mean, probably the least of the business people of anybody in the East Village had to have been us.
okay,
And we were really, really broke. And I will tell you that we could not afford electricity. So we had this really big orange cord and we lived above the gallery. And so we would plug it in upstairs. And then underneath us was the drug dealer. And so before we had gotten that apartment, we used his apartment to steal electricity. And then every time the Con Ed truck came, Mario was very agile. He'd scamper up the fire escape and unplug so we didn't get arrested. But no, we had no business sense whatsoever.
but you still did well.
I still don't.
You still don't,
I
but you
feel
still
we
did well.
by accident, because
By
at
accident.
some point, you know, we had our gallery and then we took the space next door and we called it Edition, which we thought was hilarious.
Okay.
And so we had the two galleries and a space came up. We made great friends with the landlord. We never paid the rent. We didn't pay the rent. We never paid the rent. Not once did I give that man a rent check. Not once.
And you said you were a bad business person.
Well, how did that happen?
Some miracle of God we got away.
You can get away with not paying electric and not paying rent.
So it gets better because at that point, you know, everybody's moving and they're expanding, and Paizo's coming from Clinton to 6th Street, and Gracie got her space on Avenue A.
Okay.
And we just felt like if we didn't expand, it wasn't going to be a good thing. So we got this space on Avenue A. So it was on Avenue A between 12th and 13th, 206 Avenue A. It was this fabulous space with an upstairs and a downstairs. And I decided we were going to get investors. So we got investors and created a corporation with no business sense. But we did it. I don't know how. And in 3 days, we raised a whole bunch of money. And we got a structural engineer. And the man came in, looked at the space and said, do not rent this space. Do you think we listened to that? Not for a minute. We rented that space. We didn't even know that you needed a building permit. Our artists were renovating the space. We got shut down by the Department of Buildings. And my friend Vala met an expediter at a party and flirted with him to get us our permits. That's how we did it.
I never heard this. This is great.
Yeah, true story. We opened, we had no floor in the basement. So I stood at the opening with my arms out like this because it was just a sheer drop. We had no insurance. We had no glass in the windows. Previous to that, when we had the other space, we had a curator come in. Remember Regina Trapp?
Oh, yeah.
So Regina Trapp curated a show for us. This is how bad at business we were. In addition, so it was this tiny space. We were showing Nancy Brooks Brody. And then next door, we had this show that Regina had curated, and she borrowed all this art from everywhere, including an Andy Warhol from Leo Castelli. And Leo Castelli kept asking us for the insurance riders. We didn't have a lock on the door. We didn't have insurance. And of course, I'm just going tomorrow. Meanwhile, we didn't have any of this.
Okay.
Oh, my God.
At some point, I look, and there's a
I love
crack in this painting, and I said to Mario, we're getting sued. We don't have any money. So I called the gallery, and the crack had been there before, and they sent their art restorer over. But we never gave them an insurance rider. And I kept saying, no one's breaking into the gallery to steal this painting. Nobody's going to know it's worth any money. So we were fine, but we did not sleep for a month because we were terrified.
Wow.
I mean, we were very clueless. We just knew we were really passionate about art, and we were really passionate about the people we showed.
Okay. All right. So let's talk to Jim. And Jim, you had a gallery. So you had two galleries. I mean, you started with the Magic Gallery with Brzezinski, right?
Yeah. I mean, similar to Doug, you know, I was really attracted to New York and the downtown scene from music.
Okay.
And I was in North Carolina at Wake Forest University, where I had gotten a hold of a video camera in 1978. and I immediately started to go to punk rock, concerts and stuff down in North Carolina.
Oh.
So I documented Mitch Easter, who was the first producer for REM, the DBs, Chris Stamian, the DBs, Peter Holsapple, Will Rigby, and they were friends with the Bongos. So in 1982, I was at Danceteria, I want to say, videotaping, and Maxwell's was a club in Hoboken.
Mm-hmm.
So I was working with these bands. The
Well, I'm really
Bongos,
good friends with Richard Barone who's the lead of
and
the
Richard
Bongos.
Barone,
Yeah,
right?
right,
Richard Barone.
Right.
Richard Barone played in Woodstock later. I that's another story.
Okay.
Yeah. So we all knew about CBGBs and I had been attracted to art early on. And at university, I would go to hang out with my friends in the art department,
Mm-hmm.
and I audited classes because I had an overload. I had a double major of biology. I was going to be a doctor, and I gave up on that real quick when I got a D in chemistry my first semester.
Okay.
But I kept the major. I completed that major. And I picked up anthropology because I thought my girlfriend, Wendy Wasink, she was an artist. She was like, I have to do the wash this afternoon. And she meant the gouache. So I learned a lot about art from Wendy. She was doing photorealism, and I saw how they really I kind of thought cheated, by gritting it out and doing these things. Anyway, it's a whole nother story. But I got the art bug way back then. And I did darkroom photography. I had this video camera. I was videotaping these bands. And this phenomenon of this kind of new wave punk phenomenon, or whatever you want to call it, alternative, was global. It wasn't just New York. New York was the epicenter of it, and we all knew it. Excuse me for a second. We all knew it, So Winston-Salem was kind of going through this too, downtown Winston-Salem, North Carolina. And I started to work with a dance company called Marsha Plevin Dance Company, videotaping them. And I actually took dance, postmodern dance lessons and stuff. And this woman, Becky, she was moving up. She was a dancer. I had dated a couple of dancers at the Winston-Salem School of the Arts. And, the Spoleto Dance Festival is down in Charleston, South Carolina. So John Cage and Merce Cunningham used to come down there, and the Black Mountain School is down there too, where a lot of these people had done their work. So I knew it. I got to be in New York.
Right.
And with the anthropology background, I was totally self-aware, cognizant that what I wanted to do was to document the cultural scene, this cultural happening. I didn't know what it was going to be, but when I hit New York, 1982, and then I had seen an article actually in the New York Times that had the names New Math, Civilian Warfare, Piezoelectric, Nature Mort, and all of a sudden I was like, oh my gosh, there is art. There's an art, because I'd gone down to Soho and. They were like, we already have artists. And I saw Brian Eno's installation down there on West Broadway. And, I visited Sana Ben Castelli, but all the gates were closed. There was just no way that I could participate in that scene of Soho. That was an older generation. Then when I saw this thing in the New York Times, I was like, oh my God. So this woman named Brigitte Carlson, who used to dress like a fortune teller from the 20s, with like this dangly hat and everything. And I put on my bowler hat and like a skinny tie and my Edwardian suit and jacket, vintage. And I says, Brigitte, I'm going to show you what's going on here in the art world. Let's meet at the Guggenheim down by the Dwayne Hansen sculptures, by the cafeteria there. So we met there, and I said, no, it's not happening here. Let's go down to the subway. And so we went down the subway, and I was like, pointed at the Keith Harings. I'm like, this is it. This is what's going on. And we're going to check it out. And we got on that subway, got out at Astor Place. And the first place we hit was Fun Gallery, because I had my little like antenna up. And we walked into Fun Gallery, and there's Patty Astor, Keith Haring, busy. And these blaring boom boxes, boom, boom. And there was the advent of hip hop. This was all new. This was all very new. And the little kids, these kids probably about 8 or 9 years old, like running around like maniacs with magic markers and spraying and doing everything. And, and I was just like, I got, how the kind of like, you get this tingly sensation and you're like, wow, this is what I'm looking for. This is real cool stuff. So we kept walking up 10th Street, and I see this sign, Limbo Lounge. and I'm kind of shy, actually, even though I'm a very social person. So I kind of took a deep breath, and I says, Brigitta, let's knock on the door. We knocked on the door. And this fella opens the door. His name was Jeff. I says, how does a young artist get a show in a place like this? And he says, well, what do you do? And I said, I do video. I take photographs off the screens. I go to the dark room and I blow them up and I manipulate them and I paint and scratch on them. I make noise and sound environments. And he's like, okay, we'll give you a show.
Okay.
And that was spring of '83.
Okay.
And my first show in New York was at the Limbo Lounge in August of '83. And it was so fun. I mean, I did like, they had a backyard, so I had TV monitors everywhere, and I was playing this music that I made, which was actually tin pots and pans that I slowed down, so it was like right up, this noise, and with these like abstract things coming out of the screens, and I put some of these video photos around, And so that was my oeuvre, my entrance into the world of art in the East Village. But I was very alone. I didn't know anyone, so everyone I met kind of was from the Limbo Lounge, like Kiko Bonk and Rick Kroll and Carlo McCormick. Who's a fantastic. He's an interesting person. He was curating these weekly shows there. So I was actually living out in Long Island at my mom and dad's house, just like going like, I've got to get out of here. And I'd drive this little Honda, and I'd pass the like toxic, what was it? I forget his name. There were these. John Fechner. John Fechner's.
Toxic, right?
Toxic Junkie.
Well, it wasn't Toxic Junkie. It was called Vidiot, Vidiot,
Okay.
and so I really related to that, being a video guy. And I'd be going down the Brooklyn Queens Expressway. Friends of mine from Wake Forest lived. We're going to Pratt then, so I was going to Pratt and crashing at their loft, on Washington Avenue, and I mean, it was just this amazing sensation that this old city, the massive structure, and we were kind of like experiencing this thing, going across the bridge and the Manhattan Bridge and everything.
I wanted to just ask, how did you start get into the galleries, having your own gallery?
Yeah, so I met this guy, Edward Brzezinski, who had a show from Carlo, and I bought 3 of his pieces. At that point, he offered to me to, he's like, Jim C, you really want to do like artist run? Everybody. I mean, like, people were living in their storefronts and running galleries and whatnot,
Right.
And I thought that was very cool stuff, like an art project, so to speak. And I really wanted to do something like that. So Ed said, I'll tear down all the walls in my apartment at 9 East 3rd Street, 5th floor walk up. Right off of Bowery, and we can do a gallery together if you pay the rent. So he was a little
Right.
manipulator and a conniver, but it was fine, And so I had a $2,000 student loan that I would walk over to LaGuardia Place, which was the only ATM, the first ATM, right? And walk over to get my like $20 or $30 or whatever. But in the rent was like $50 a month. It was the Cooper Square, organization. The super would always pull out this knife whenever I would come, and he'd look at me and I'd go upstairs and, Evan Lurie from the Lounge Lizards lived downstairs. Bill Rice, the painter, lived next door. I did not really understand till later, there was a whole East 3rd Street scene with Philip Glass and I think Ann Magnuson and others, but that you learn, through life. It was that actually the thing that you're doing is bigger than you realize, so this magic gallery was the first thing. Then Eddie and I had a big falling out, the infamous spaghetti incident where the spaghetti ended up on the wall and Eddie had a little fit and I walked out and I was like, I left all the stuff there, including these things that bought off him and I don't know what else. I walked in beeline to James Romberger and Marguerite Van Cook's Ground Zero Gallery, which was the original civilian warfare gallery on 11th Street, knocked on the door and I was like, I'm done. Ed and I had this fight. They put this American flag with 48 stars on the floor and I like slept on the floor there. And I had this girlfriend named Susan Strand who I met at the Miguel Pinheiro. This poet had done poetry at the Magic Gallery, which I documented, and that turned out to be a big thing later too. But Susie Strand was in the audience there, and I kind of like saw her. Then I met her at Piezo Electric on Clinton Street at an opening. And to make a long story short, we got together. So Susan was like my first girlfriend in New York. And so I lived with her for a couple of months. Then I heard about the storefront on Rivington Street. And I was like, okay. And it was a company called the Lower East Side Renaissance Corporation.
Oh, God.
And it was a fella named Chemist Goethe. Now, Chemist Goethe passed from AIDS since then. But Chemist showed me this place on Rivington that happened to be next to an already established after-hours club called No Say No. Now, I knew that No Say No existed. I saw the posters on the street, but I did not know anybody in New York, hardly, and I really wasn't going to walk by myself down to Rivington because it was dangerous. I mean, I was jumped on 10th Street and Avenue A, which if you went there now, you'd say, really, you were jumped on 10th and A? Yeah, I was jumped and they hit me in the face and I kind of like got away and I went up to Limbo Lounge and they were all like, here, have some coffee.
No, it's definitely, I give you all a lot of credit because I know it was really dangerous down there.
Oh, there were burnt out cars everywhere. I mean, whatever. Anyway, go ahead.
Actually, I was postering for my show at Limbo Lounge and we postered on one of those cars. It was like, and the car was literally all smashed up on like 9th Street and Avenue A, which wasn't really far east, but that's the way it was.
Listen, I remember we'd go out and I'd be really scared to walk home alone. And Odessa was open all night. And I would sit in Odessa with like the cheapest thing I could get because none of us had any money. And wait till 5 o'clock in the morning when I deemed it safe because I figured people were going to work. And I walked, like I did that countless times because it was really scary to walk home.
It was that way. It was that way everywhere in New York at the time. I mean, I really feel, in the late 70s, I mean, it was, New York was this is why the rents are so cheap and the buildings were abandoned in the Lower East Side.
Right.
Every other building was a shooting gallery.
Exactly.
But there was a sense of menace wherever you went in New York at the time. You were not, and there was muggings and there was.
I got mugged.
Well, I
thought 3 times.
But I think that you don't have that sense of menace anymore, where you'd you have your antenna out and you walk across the street if you saw a bunch of kids, over there, because it was like a sport to go beat up people too.
But
Well,
I mean,
you know?
the Lower East Side was really specifically empty. I mean, there would just be
Yeah.
blocks and blocks of empty buildings, and everybody selling drugs, and people moving into empty buildings.
And don't
Yeah.
forget that.
It wasn't all over New
And
York
don't-
like that,
Right.
you know.
I meant the sense of menace and the
No,
sense
I
of
grew
the
up on the
danger.
Upper East Side. It was very different.
No, but
Right.
don't forget.
Right.
Okay,
Don't
well, that
forget.
was.
Don't forget that our world was embellished by street art by people like Richard Hambleton, which enhanced the
Right.
feeling of
Right.
forebode. You know,
Uh-huh.
and
Yeah.
Michael Roman had with his skeletons, and Richard Hambleton did these shadows that if you didn't look twice, you'd think it was somebody about to come out and kill you.
Oh God.
My point was that crime was everywhere, and it was, you know, up until the early 90s, it
Excuse
was
me for
a lot different than it is now. It's a completely
Yeah.
different feeling everywhere, pretty much. I mean, yeah, the Upper East Side is the Upper East Side, but that's suburbs.
No, but I will say this. My grandparents lived at 25 West 81st Street. And through my high school years, when I would go to visit them after school, they would always, my grandmother, her pat line was, darling, don't walk up Columbus Avenue. Because
Yeah, well, that's the
Columbus
West Side, right?
very scary.
Yeah.
No, I was mugged on the Upper West Side, but I lived there. Well, they stole my purse. But yeah.
Well, you know, when Doug and I were going up to Columbia, the summer before we went, we graduated high school in 77, and I remember watching at his parents' house when they had the blackout and all the riots and everything, and we're like, oh, we're going up there like right near Harlem and right near whatever. I mean, it was
Right.
like really, you know, that was like dangerous, and everybody was like all worried, and it was, I mean, you know, the city was bankrupt.
Mhm.
And we went there, and it was kind of like a great time and a horrible time at the same time.
Yeah.
But it was, you know, it was crazy time. And yes, you had to, especially as a girl at the time, really, I wasn't quite a woman, you know, walking around, you'd have to say, can you walk me home? Or can I take a cab? Or, you know, if you couldn't afford it, you couldn't take a cab. So, you know, there'd always be somebody that could walk you home or something.
But I have to say,
And-
it was also a city of real possibility at that time.
Oh, yes.
It was just endless possibility.
Well, that's why
Which
the artists came down there. I mean, there
Right.
was this, they were dreamers, you know,
Right.
and we were dreamers, what we did, you know, it was a DIY, you know, thing. So
But we didn't
anyway.
know any better, really. I
Right.
mean,
No, but you
Well-
definitely were very brave. I have
We
to
were-
say.
I mean,
So-
whether we knew any better, but I don't know if that's a judgment call, but it's just like, we wanted to do it. We had that energy, that beautiful, youthful,
Right.
creative energy.
well, I found that the
And,
ones that took the kind of larger financial risks, the ones opening the galleries and the scene there, they tended to be younger than a lot of the artists that we showed. I mean, the artists that we showed
Right.
at our gallery were in their like late 20s, early 30s, and we were like 23 years old when we
Right.
started doing this. And Nina, of course, was even younger.
22.
you know,
Yeah, but it's
and-
amazing to me. I know.
Yeah, so it's kind of
It's
like
young. I
first,
know.
it's like we haven't been burned yet, and so we had that,
Right.
you know, so we have,
Naive,
Yeah.
but yeah,
and so
not realizing.
that's
you could
you
get
know, and then
into.
the next group of galleries that's maybe they're a little older and stuff. They're like a
I
little
did
wiser.
feel that we were kids,
wait.
though,
Okay, go.
and
Totally
you
good.
know,
and we looked younger than our 23 years. I mean, we looked
Right.
like we were
Okay.
teenagers.
Okay.
Lisa
but
and
we,
I,
I mean, we did have a real affinity with Nina and Mario. I mean, at the time,
Uh-huh.
I really felt they were kindred spirits, and they were, you know, they were wonderful. We loved you guys.
Okay,
And
wait, I have to show a
it was-
picture
I mean-
of you too.
Uh-oh.
Wait a second. Oh, and I have to bring up about you were in this East Village Orchestra.
Doug
yeah.
was in that.
Doug,
you were in it
and-
too.
Right.
You were a go-go
yeah, well, you were
dancer.
a go-go
Yeah,
dancer.
We
Wait,
were
I have a
go-go
picture.
dancing. Are you
I
doing
gotta show you.
that?
So
I
let
gotta
me
show
let me
the
tell the
picture.
story of that. Let me tell the
Okay,
story.
God.
You
Here-
can put on the
Here's
picture.
the two of them, Nina and Lisa, go-go dancers in this.
Me.
So
Oh my
the
God!
East Village Orchestra came
Okay.
came
Oh, how
out
do
of
we?
it came out
Wait,
of the
who
back
took that
room.
picture? Wait, who took that picture?
Philip
Uh,
Pocock.
Probably
Okay,
Philip.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Anyway, yeah, go on, Doug.
So one of the artists in our gallery, who's really kind of one of the catalysts, along with Carlo, of the East Village art scene, Keiko Bonk, a native of Hawaii.
Okay.
Her father was German and her mother was Japanese. She was kind of an Axis baby in that sense. But she was in the East Village. She was a painter, but also a musician. She had this band called His Master's Voice with her husband, and Robert Burke Warren was in this band too.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and they one of the artists in our another artist in our gallery, Louis Renzoni, who we did very well with at the time, he played guitar, and he said, Keiko, you're lucky. You've got a band. I want to have a band. You know,
Right.
you're lucky you get to play with people. I just play by myself. I want a band. And she said, okay, Louis, I'll make you a band. So she invited some people to be in this band for Louis. And by the time she was done and the time people wanted to get into this band, there were 80 people in
That's
the band.
amazing. That's
It
incredible.
became the East
Everybody
Village
was in it.
Orchestra.
That's
And-
amazing. That's
and
incredible.
there was, I mean, some real players were in it, like Rhys Chatham and Robert Burke Warren and a lot of people, I mean, whose names, I forget now, but there were like 10 guitarists and 8 drummers and 20 singers. And we did these rock anthems, such as like David Bowie Heroes, Whole Lot of Love, War, Dancing in the Streets, you know, these really kind of rock anthems. And we did this. We were the first band to play, first live act to play the new Palladium nightclub.
That's amazing.
That's right.
And
Oh my
we
God.
played it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Syria,
That's so cool.
And Keiko's husband, Mark Abramson, was the director of the band, of the orchestra.
Okay.
And I think we played like 3 performances, or maybe 4. Played the new Limbo Lounge as well as the Danceteria and the Palladium. But so that was kind of an East Village, kind of like, okay, this is a family thing. Let's all get together and put on.
So
a
you were
show.
one of the singers, Doug, right?
was
You were
a
one-
I was
singer.
a singer. Yeah, I was a
Yeah.
singer.
Okay,
But,
I have to say something.
Doug,
Okay,
he's bringing up. I'm sorry. One more thing.
Yeah.
Doug. I mean, in bringing this up, you have to. One has to also acknowledge how much the clubs played with the art thing. I mean, we all had exhibits in all the clubs, from Limbo to Palladium to Area to
Okay.
whatever.
Kamikaze.
That was a huge thing at the time,
Okay.
which we kind of skipped over here.
Okay.
But that was a big
Well,
thing.
it's a symbiotic,
Anyway,
symbiotic thing for them. I mean, they would
Right.
okay, yeah, bring art, put it up on our club, and they knew that
right.
you know,
Okay.
100 people will come and buy drinks. You
And,
know?
and
Oh, I
buy
see,
drinks.
right. Oh,
But
that's
it was a thing. It was a thing.
Oh, that's
Anyway.
great. Okay,
I-
good.
I
Yeah.
I was a VJ, a video jockey at Danceteria for 2 years, but I shot a lot of video, and I shot a video of the East Village Orchestra at Danceteria.
You're
Now,
kidding.
sadly, that footage went missing with other
Oh.
footage. Occasionally, I'd have my whole rig. I had 4 video rigs ripped off in my history down there, and
Okay.
numerous videotapes as well.
Okay.
So
I
that's a
just
little
want to
saddening
say,
because
okay.
this fantastic artist named Louis Frangella
Oh.
at Danceteria kind of like ran up to the stage and painted this heart. It was just so priceless. So I'm kind of sad about the tape missing, but it was an amazing endeavor, this East Village Orchestra.
Is there any footage on it, Doug or Lisa?
I
Is
don't
there
know of
anything?
any.
Okay. all
Not
right.
that. No. 'cause,
Okay, so I just want to say, if I can get a word in, that would be good. Okay, so now I just want to say that Doug comes from a well-known acting and musical family, and his brother. So he grew up. They were much older than him, Kim Milford and Penelope Milford. So I want to acknowledge that. And I have a picture of. She's an Academy-nominated actress. If you don't know, some of my people who are watching are not going to know that. I'm just going to show a picture of them actually from that back then. So
Oh,
that's
there's been-
Penelope
Well,
and Doug.
this is a good time to mention that Lisa and I went out with some artists to Santa Barbara through Los Angeles because they were doing a show of a lot of artists and other artists, and I guess it was an East Village oriented show. We all kind of went out together, Gracie and as well, Keiko, and joined up with Penny, who was kind of over her, just tired of the acting thing. And she hung out with us and went up to Santa Barbara. and she had the idea that she wanted to open a branch of our gallery and kind of share our artists and
Right.
do some cross-pollination. She would have artists and we'd show them. And so she opened a branch of Piezoelectric in Venice, California in 85, 86. And we hired Tommy Solomon, Holly Solomon's son, who was running White Columns, and it had stopped that. I said, you want to go out to LA? And so that's when Tommy went out to LA. He was a director, worked with Penny, my sister Penelope, and they had and Penny had the gallery out in LA. I was, Lisa and I were both going back and forth, to kind of help out
but previous to this, though, we also shared, we worked with a East Coast, West Coast gallery and East Coast.
Oh, okay.
We were East Coast, and we had done
we had swapped artists.
Swap.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So we were kind of in the, it wasn't just like out of nowhere.
But I mean, both of us had family out in LA. So
okay.
Yeah, Lisa and I actually went out there after graduating. After doing a yard sale, raised some money and went out to LA for
before college.
Before college.
Okay. Okay. Wait, I have another picture. Oh, okay, good. All right, I want to show this.
So
picture.
we're familiar with it. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to show a picture of Nina and Mario.
Oh my God, I love this picture.
Yeah, it's really great.
Okay,
it's Nina, who took this picture?
So Alan Copia took that photograph, and
my God,
first boyfriend. So I met Alan. I was 16, and it's a good story. My then very close friend Jill, who is still my very close friend, was flunking out of high school, as we all were, because we never went to school. And so her mother decided to send her to LA, summer of 1977. We were 16, and figured this was going to fix her. Well, she came back that summer and said, I heard all this new music, and there's this place, Max's Kansas City, and we've got to go there.
Right.
So we ended up waiting till about November, and we went there, and I walked in, and Alan was at the bar, and I met him and lied about my age. And he was at School of Visual Arts, and we met and were together for 4 years after this and talked to this day. Anyway, he took that photograph. And the funny thing about that photograph, grandmother, my mom's mom, and my mom's dad would go on all these cruises during the winter. And I am wearing her dress that she wore on some cruise.
Oh, wow.
Like I just started wearing things like that at 9 a.m, like sequin down to the floor dress. I'm going to go open the gallery now.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's cool. That's really neat.
And I think it's in Mario's room, and it's the two painters that are on the wall are Kelly Olsen and Barry.
Okay. So we're at an hour in a minute. So does anybody want to say anything else to wrap this up?
Yeah, I mean, I would a little bit. I'd like to just things have gone full circle for me recently. One of our artists who passed away, and then her daughter passed away. I've just recently acquired I've got the key. I have control of the estate, which I'm kind of excited about. Freya Hansel. So we're working with that, and I've had all sorts of. Her work has had all sorts of support to preserve it from Eric Fischel and April Gornick have paid a lot of money to take care of this art, and hopefully we can do something with it. So I'm kind of back in the saddle a little bit, but otherwise,
that's great. That's really great.
It's a good thing. So,
that's
but
really great.
I love our people right here. So,
that's great.
They're still dear friends again for a while now.
Yes.
I just wanted to get some pictures of the art to y'all. Unfortunately, the tech didn't work, so you might be able to add them, but. But the examples I sent were to kind of show the evolution of the gallery in a few short years. The first couple pictures, there's pictures of a show called The Wild West. I mentioned that Carla McCormick organized. It's over 50 something artists in 1983. Now, when we didn't want to put any money into this gallery because we didn't expect anything of it. But my brother worked at a photo studio for a while, and at that, he brought home this seamless white paper because 2 of our walls were brick, and the other 2 were windows. It was a corner store, so he brought home also the black background curtains from photos, and we put up plumbing pipe. We hung shower curtain hooks and put the black there, and we duct taped the seamless paper sideways over the brick wall, so we had white walls. That was our gallery, and we looked for the what do you call it, the grout between the bricks to get the nails in for the painting. And
it took hours to do that.
For it, so we knew where to do the nails. And on the window walls, we hung the paintings by fishing line. And we did clamp lights
in front of the black curtains. In front of the black curtains.
We did clamp lights onto the non-working fluorescent lights, and that was our gallery. Now, and so that was that show that you could see. There's a bunch of art, the 50 artists all packed in. So that I think in that picture, one of the pictures is paintings by Walter Robinson and Richard Hampton, Luis Frangella, David Warnerovich.
I think Martin Wong was in it.
Martin Wong was in it, and I was in it. I actually had a photograph, and then later some pictures of an exhibition that we did over at the Avenue and A space, 2 doors over. It was kind of an identical space to Nina and Mario's, except we gussied it up a bit more. And that's where Kiki had her first solo show, Kiki Smith. But those pictures include works by one exhibition was called Physics, and the next exhibition was called Metaphysics. And actually, because of those, the idea was kind of like there was a overlap, and some of the artists, it's like, well, which show should they be in? And there's pictures of a big Ross Bleckner painting and John Armletter and Linda Mary Montano, and then there's another one of the physics show where everything's kind of moving around and stuff. And so those are those pictures. I just wanted to mention that because that gallery was kind of slick. We had high ceilings, and so forth, and we built walls, and we did this and that. And actually, it was taken over. Jack Goldstein took over. There's another picture of a show we did with Jack. We had him in a couple of shows, and Lawrence Weiner and John Lamka was I think maybe it might have been the last show we did over on Avenue A.
Okay.
Well, Nina, you showed Zoe Leonard, which is
but Zoe,
huge.
The really great thing about Zoe was not only did I show her, she was our gallery.
Yeah.
And no one has ever made me laugh harder than she made me laugh. She was so
She was
hysterical.
wonderful. She was so cool.
Oh my God, she was so funny. I mean, she still is funny.
Yeah.
But we did show her, we showed Nancy Brooks Brody, who recently passed away.
Yeah, I know.
That was a hard phone call because I had to tell Mario. That was not fun. Because she was really instrumental. She helped us name the gallery. I remember
she was so cool. She was so wonderful.
She was amazing. And really, really fantastic artist. Probably one of my favorites that we showed. For sure.
Plus a very nice person.
We all met in a freshman year painting class. Mario, Nancy, myself, all of us were in there.
Okay, so is that the last thing? I just want to wrap it up. 1 minute and 1 hour and 7 minutes. Okay, let's see, who is that?
Oh, there's Nancy. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Wrap up here is to just say, like, we were really young. We had a lot of energy, which some of us still have. Mm-hmm. And I think we were really fortunate. Like, there were some, our landscape was a death landscape. It was heroin addicts and burnt out buildings and burnt out cars. But somehow we didn't do that all the time. Like, I don't think that's what we were looking at, because we couldn't have survived looking at that. Like, we were looking at endless possibility instead of all the destruction that was down there. And I feel like it was just, we were so fortunate to come of age at that time. I feel so lucky.
Absolutely.
And lucky to know.
Here.
Yeah, I mean,
I love you guys.
All right, Jim.
yeah,
well,
it was a transitional time as well. And I think, how did it wrap up? And you had mentioned, I don't want to end on this note, but, there were a lot of people, friends of ours that were affected by the AIDS crisis, a lot that passed, and missed them.
Yeah.
And that brings up a lot of memories talking about all of this.
Yeah.
Richard Hoffman was one of our worked at our gallery, and who was a really
worked
good artist.
at my gallery too. I mean,
And
it was like,
I'm reading David Warnerovich's bio again to do with the writing projects I'm doing, and it just kind of brought up a lot of memories. And it was early on. It was like a wild time. Got a bit scarier as the transition happened, and but a lot of heart, a lot of love that was in this scene.
there was a lot of heart. There was a lot of heart.
And the galleries, we all there was a lot of competition and a lot of camaraderie.
But we all loved each other. I mean,
we all did,
you know,
and I feel like it was like I have to say, like when I look at Gracie and Civilian, you guys and us, I feel like in particular that group of galleries was very, very close. We were all very, very.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, all right, Jim. Final words.
Well, yeah, I just want to say that there's a movie called Make Me Famous that I collaborated for 10 years with Brian Kelly and Heather Spoor. And it's a
You're breaking up.
You're breaking up again.
Okay.
Yeah, just say the bit.
Oh well. Okay. I'm gonna mention at the end of the show. It's gonna be July 6th, Upstate Films at 7:00 with a talk back with the producer and the director. So I'll give them all the details at the end of the show.
Yeah, it's centered on the artist Edward Brzezinski, who was in our Piezoelectric's first exhibition, and at least one other exhibition as well. And I think Lisa got to be good friends with Edward. And there's a fabulous portrait that Tom Warren took, I think, up at Fashion Moda, if not out at the Terminal show, one place or the other, of you and Edward.
And Edward,
yeah. I think I saw it. I think Doug,
you and Edward. It's really a great picture.
I've seen it. Yeah.
But, so the movie, and if I'm going to help Jim out here, the movie is a lot of Jim's footage. He worked with him with the Magic Gallery, and of Ed and the scene,
and Marguerite and James,
Marguerite and Marguerite and James Romberger, Marguerite, and they had Ground Zero Gallery, and were also very close with David Warnerovich and worked with him, collaborated with him. They were a major part of the scene, and I think Lisa's still good friends with, good friends with James up there in wherever you live, so anyway, so they did this film centered on, but
it's playing around the world, and
it's kind of like, it's called Make Me Famous. It's about this guy that really had a career drive,
wanted to be famous,
annoyed people to
Right. Okay, well, thank you all for joining me today, and it was really fun.
Thank you, Mindy.
And it was great to learn more all about the scene back then, because I was on the Upper West Side and in the 80s, and ended up in the art scene in Williamsburg and Greenpoint in the 90s. So anyway, it was great to catch up and learn all this about you all, and it's impressive, and I'm really glad I got to do this.
Thank you so much, Princess. Wow. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, it's enough to talk about, just kind of like the logistics of all of this. Of course, what's behind it is the love of the art and the artists. And we really didn't talk much about that, but that's a bit drier. And this is, it's already over an hour. There was just so much to talk about, and there's so much more as well. But maybe
I'm sure. Yeah.
Anyway, thanks for the opportunity, Mindy.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, talk to you later.
Okay.
Bye, Doug. Love you.
Bye. Bye. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed that, and either live or on replay. And it was really great to do the research and learn more about the scene down there. Anyway, I'll keep y'all posted on my next interview. I'm doing a series of art and music in the 80s in New York City. So, oh, good. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Oh, good. I'm glad. Yeah, no, thought it was really great too. Thank you. I enjoyed the whole thing too. So anyway, I will talk to y'all later and love you all and keep smiling, keep sweet. Join the smile revolution. Bye. I'm gonna sign off with my credits. Hold on one second. It's called the Smile Revolution that comes, goes round and back to you. So smile.